If you are trying to make your marketing and sales team more efficient and generate more ROI from the investment that you're making in both of those departments, you need to be having regular meetings that allow those two teams to collaborate. But you also need a little bit of structure in how you implement those meetings. So let's talk a little bit about how you can generate the most ROI out of marketing and sales collaborations. I'm Courtney Gulster. I am a digital marketing expert. I help companies optimize and grow using digital marketing that directly impacts the sales process. So, sales and marketing are often two departments that are siloed within organizations, and that is to the detriment of your success. If those two groups are not talking to each other, your marketing materials are not designed in a way that they're going to really support your sales team, and you're not necessarily using the tactics that are going to optimize the sales process to shorten your sales cycle. So you need to bring those two teams together, and you actually need to do that regularly, which means you need to schedule regular touch points between those two teams. And now, obviously, the frequency of those touch points depends on how much sales and marketing you're doing right now, how big your teams are, what the workload is, and all of those things. But I actually recommend for most companies that marketing and sales have a dedicated touch point once a week that allows them to check in on projects, adjust strategy as needed, and stay on the same wavelength with everything that's happening. So, scheduling that as a regular check in and just setting that up as a recurring meeting on your schedule is really helpful. Supplemental to that, you might have additional specific programs that require a more intensive conversation that maybe are just specific people from each of those teams. And you can have separate calls that are scheduled for those. So, for example, you might have an affiliate or a partnership program that requires just more of a deep dive, but doesn't require everyone to be involved. Maybe that's an every other week recurring meeting that can be scheduled on a different day to allow those teams to come back together and get specific to do items done together. Now, with that, scheduling that regular check in, you need to optimize the time that you have because there is nothing worse than a meeting that consistently goes over the time period allotted because there was no plan. So make sure that you have a regular recurring agenda for those meetings that can be customized on a weekly basis. Understanding what high level topics you want to cover on each of these calls that are maybe recurring marketing to dos or recurring sales to dos that need input from both sides can really help you to drive those conversations in the right direction. And then you can get a little bit more detailed with the weekly agenda that goes out prior to your actual meeting. You also need to have a process for vetting and managing new ideas because if there is one thing that will happen when you bring your sales and marketing team together, it's that there will be a ton of new ideas that are sparked. Some of them are really great and some of them aren't a great fit long term for what you're trying to build or just aren't worth the amount of bandwidth that they're going to eat up with everything else that you have going on. So you need to have a process like a litmus test for identifying which initiatives are actually important and should be added to the to-do list and what should be shelved for a future use. So that could be anything from understanding how many hours your marketing team has free to work on new initiatives, or even having a running list in your project management system that can be reprioritized based on what's most important or what's most critical to the sales team's success. But you have to have a process for managing that because you're always going to be coming up with great ideas. A lot of times, what I'll tell clients is unless something is critical to closing a deal, you should have a running list that's reevaluated once a quarter. So we're setting our strategy for the upcoming quarter and we're not adding or modifying anything unless it's critical. So if we come up with new ideas, we'll add them to a list to reevaluate going into the next 90-day implementation. And that allows you to also take a step back and just decide whether that was a great idea in the moment or if it's something that will actually be beneficial and worthwhile to implement. So Coming kind of hand in hand with that is being realistic and reprioritizing your to-do list on a weekly basis. I can't tell you the number of times that sales and marketing have gotten together and developed a plan for the future only to realize that the priorities are shifting based on the market or the sales activity shifting, and all of that needs to be kind of reorganized because certain pieces have a higher priority or importance than others. So being flexible and understanding that, that's something that you can do within these sales and marketing meetings, but being realistic and coaching your team so that they're accepting of the fact that not everything's going to be a priority and some things are going to get bumped down on the list as other priorities arise. That's really important to frame that mindset for your team so that they can be more successful and feel like they're having the impact that they want to have on the future of the organization. I hope that's helpful for you. If you have questions, obviously reach out. My contact information is on the screen and below. I hope you have a great day.